We'll see.
Here we
We'll
are.
see when they get here. Yeah, here we are, face to face again.
And then there were two of us.
Well, yeah, we've got two of us hanging out here for the Loki's midweek mischief. I feel like we're going to be the victims of a cosmic prank, right? Because it's supposed to be a full house. Maybe the others are actually in here. We just can't see them.
Are there two other people supposed to join us, or three?
I know at least one. I don't think Mark's going to make it. Mike possibly, and Don. I talked to Don earlier today, so he should be here. But if not, you know what? I'll keep the door open. We can hang out if they show up, and if not, David Fowley of Keeping It Real, you and I are perfectly capable to answer the call to talk about Loki. Loki episode 2.
Loki.
Yeah. So where do you want to give the synopsis?
Wow. I don't.
Okay, well then let me while you think of something to say, and I'm fine with giving it. We'll just I don't know. I'm a little bit off my game because I'm used to
everybody else talking.
Yeah, or at least just more of a lead into this. But yeah, it's fine.
It begins in Oshkosh.
It does, and this is why this would have been the perfect night for Mark to join us because he's Wisconsinite, but that's fine. He'll catch up with us later and see that I'm sending out some Wisco love.
We could both do the synopsis, and I could help you out, and you could help me out, and how's that?
Yeah. By the end of the show, we will have fully summarized the show and given no opinions. But no, so yeah, just for anyone who's listening, we don't have any viewers right now, but if you're watching this in the future, feel free to time travel back and tune in live, or just join us live next Wednesday. We're going to be here every night for the next 4 weeks after tonight, because we're zeroing in on a 6-week show. But yeah, if you come and hang out, you can join us in the comments. Let us know what you thought. And yeah, so Disney Plus, Marvel Disney, they dropped episode 2 of Loki early this morning. I know a number of my guests who are not here, but got a chance to watch it last week. Did you? I forgot, David. You watched the episode 2 last week as well. How many times have you watched it since?
Once. I haven't been able to catch up with it. If I did, it would have been today, and I've just been too busy today. But I did watch an Easter egg recap, and it did brush me up a little bit in what we watched. So it's good stuff. When we talked last week, I had said that watching these two back to back was like a really cool 2-hour pilot. And the way that the first episode ended, with the whole fire and the figure in the field, the hooded figure in the field, was intriguing. But this episode kind of ends in a similar fashion in that we actually see the hooded figure uncloaked. So in a way it kind of is a duplicate ending with a bit more of a reveal. So it was good to kind of catch up some of the get some nuggets from this Easter egg little YouTube snippet that was fun. So the reason I did like so it starts out in 1985 in Oshkosh, Wisconsin at a Ren fair. And we know, we know, us Chicagoans and Chicagolandians know that, up north during the summer, there is, I think it's just over the border. It might be like Sheboygan or Kenosha or something. There's always the Renaissance Fair, right? People dress up. It's the original cosplayers. And people dress up for medieval times, and they, it basically have a village and whatever, jousting and anything else that happened back then is reenacted.
And it's not just medieval times. I used to, for years, I participated in a reenactment of the French Indian War with my wife's family. Yeah, wow. Full costume and camping out and all of that good stuff. They're fun. So it was kind of nice to see that depicted in Loki, complete with the lady who was kind of the shop owner who, when the TVA agents showed up, she was like, "You guys aren't in costume."
Yeah,
they're very big on their period authenticity.
Yeah, how can you be here? It was funny. I noticed when I was watching this video of Easter eggs, how the presenter pointed out that it's funny if you pay attention kind of in the background to all these, let's say, Renaissance Fair patrons, where some of them were standing around like in their garb, period, piece garb, period accurate garb, where holding red Solo cups, with beer or drink or whatever, and it's just kind of funny to see that. It's not like they're goblets or anything or chalices. It's red Solo cup. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, they didn't. I'm blanking on how they served. Granted, when I would do it, they didn't have. I was drinking mostly like period root beer out of glass jars.
Heavy on the root.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, but so the TVA shows up at this Renaissance fair, ostensibly hot on the trail of the variant that they're chasing, who we learned last week is supposed to be Loki. Now, we'll stay kind of spoiler free for the next little bit here, but this. We see the very familiar touch of green kind of energy transferring as one of the TVA is kind of possessed and starts kicking the others' butts, and then is dragged off through a portal, if I recall, right? And then we kind of catch up with Loki and Owen Wilson, and that's sort of the stretch of the show. Like the big middle of this is just the two of them back in the TVA again, trying to figure each other out, the grudging buddy cop kind of scenario. And as much as I like the climax of this show, in the futuristic supermarket city, I really liked the character building that they did in this middle part.
I actually couldn't wait last week. I couldn't wait to talk about this because for me, it was the highlight of the 2 hours. Just sitting there watching, the actors, Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston, riff off each other, and also just the dialogue and what they were talking about it's kind of deep, but there was also like funny moments. Like I think it was in this episode where we get the idea that, or we get to learn that Mobius really has a Jones for like early 90s wave runners or jet skis. Yes. And I'm like, it just seems so like, I'm wondering like how they landed on that. It's like, of all things, so in this episode, Loki kind of like, he goes to work for the TVA and he gets a desk, and that's how he kind of sees, he sees the jet ski magazine and Mobius's desk kind of like hanging out there. And so later in that conversation that it gets brought up. So it just seems like you get the idea that Mobius and maybe at least some of the others or all of the others who are working for the TVA are, old, hundreds of years old, and that's an interesting theory. It's not too surprising. And I guess you get that idea just because there's this. Obviously, they're dealing with time, and they've dealt with time for quite a long, time, a long while. There's almost like a weariness to Mobius's character, and there's also a longing to. I feel like we're just going to use the word time a lot in this episode, but
let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a longing to take time out or off of the job of work and just do whatever you wanted to do. But he also feels this responsibility to adhere to what his job calls him to do, and is to monitor the sacred timeline and make sure things are running smoothly. But it was nice in this episode to see kind of this. I guess we don't even know if Mobius is human, but to show some kind of humanity and depth or not depth, but more so like another dimension to his character, and that he's kind of just relatable, that he has this, longing to do something other than what he's doing for a living. Well, I don't know if it's a living, for his job.
Yeah. Well, Yeah, the jet ski thing is interesting because he's talking about. I think I got this dialogue right, but there's no place to jet ski in wherever the TVA is. It really kind of opened up my brain a bit to like what is life like outside of this building.
Right.
Do they have oceans? Do they have beaches? Do they have suburbs? Or is it all just this vast kind of clockwork network of efficiency or efficiousness?
Right. And we saw that whole, viewpoint outside the window of this kind of, futuristic kind of steampunk city. And so we don't know if is that in like a dome or is that just part of the city? Is there anything beyond that? Who knows? I'd be very interested to see if this series goes, into that. I really hope that we get a lot more into the TVA as the episodes go, but it looks like it would kind of be a balance of, jumping along through time and learning more about the TVA, which makes sense. It's cool.
Yeah. Since we are kind of light on staff tonight, as it were, I think we can jump into
Why not?
spoilers, because this is something that I was thinking about. Now, again, I just want to reiterate to those out there who are watching now or in the future, turn back now because we are really going to get into spoilers in this. So watch Loki episode 2 and 1, for that matter, if you're not caught up, and then come back and hang out. So, Mike, okay, this is a series about the god of mischief,
right?
Now, first, let's go back to that because I feel like I keep missing something.
Okay.
Are the Asgardians actual gods, or are they just really powerful aliens that are godlike to us? Because they kind of refer to themselves as gods, but they also live on this other. Is it a planet or is Asgard a dimension? I paid very little attention during the Thor movies, honestly, and they're the least Marvel movies. The Marvel movies I've seen the least, so I'm kind of out of it on this one.
So in the MCU, Asgard is like a realm in space. Okay, I don't know if you want to call it a planet. It's a realm, and there is like 9 realms. It's one of the realms, and it's kind of an adaptation of Norse mythology to have these 9 realms of like you have the ice giants, the frost giants had their own realm, and that's where Loki is from. He learns in the first movie, and then a little bit more in the second. But yeah, in this one, in the comics, Asgard was kind of like this off-world world, and Earth was called Midgard. Yeah. Oh, looks like.
Nope. Yeah, Don might be jumping on.
He'll be joining. Okay, cool. So yeah, so that's kind of like it is this kind of realm. Maybe you might want to call it a dimension of sorts. But as far as the god thing, yes, Thor is known as the god of thunder, god of mischief, on Asgard. As far as off-world or elsewhere, I'm not sure what they would be referred to, but as exhibited in the last couple Avengers and in Ragnarok, Thor has upped his godlike powers and levels, whereas the character of Loki has been I guess updated and iterated in a lot of different fashions, but he's always been this trickster, this mischief man, and always kind of like a conniver. And if he is teaming up with a villain, he always has some kind of way out or something up his sleeve. So and you saw this a little bit in the first episode, but definitely a lot more of this in this episode where he's working with the TVA. He's going to different places. I think in this episode they go to Pompeii, right? And he causes chaos there. He thrives on that, and you get the idea, especially from the last episode, that he thrives on it because he knows that that's what he's known for, right? But it also, we get into a little bit of his kind of like existential perspective on life in general in this episode, I think, about just how, I forget all the psychobabble from, it's good psychobabble, but it's just, there's some deep stuff that he and Morbius talk about, and I wish I remembered that, but just like how much should we get involved, how much we're in control of our destiny, and how nothing matters, and just let things rip kind of attitude is what Loki, especially when he learns that TVA has the ultimate power in the universe. I mean, that is something that he's kind of awestruck about.
Well, there is a line that I wrote down because one of the great things about this being a Marvel show, and it's something that they've been able to play with in WandaVision and in Falcon the Winter Soldier, is to kind of inject some poetry into these comic book premises. Loki is talking about the timekeepers and what they do, and the inevitability of it all. And Mobius says the timekeepers are busy untangling the epilogue from its infinite branches, because he's saying the past is settled, the present is being acted out, and the future is just this thing that needs to be mapped out to them, almost the minute cellular detail, and that's what their job is. But it's just such a cool way of putting it. It's also very visual in terms of just seeing these people kind of unwinding this knot of spaghetti, and there's 3 of them. So do they have to agree? Do they have discussions? Is it more like a jury, or are they just all kind of in sync, and it just takes 3 physical beings to tackle this one job?
Right. And I'm wondering if I hope that we'll actually see the timekeepers in this series. Who knows? I mean, I know that I mentioned Richard E. Grant's supposed to be in this show. We only have 6 episodes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
you got 4 for him to show up now. But I mean, they're probably going to wait until the last episode to introduce Mephisto anyway. So no. But here's what I was getting at with the whole God of Mischief thing. Mm-hmm. Going into the meta context of this show, and also it got me thinking about WandaVision, because you've got what is Gugu Mbatha-Raw's character? I want to say Ravenclaw, but that's it's Renslayer. Ravenclaw is Harry Potter, but Ravonna Renslayer is she's the representative. We kind of discussed her last week. She's like the judge and the officiant of the will of the timekeepers, and she's Mobius's boss. I did love that at the end, when the branches were splitting off because of these bombs that are going throughout time and space, she runs from, in her office, she runs to get her little boomstick and then charges out the door. It's like, no, all hands are on deck for this kind of a thing. It was a cool, like, little detail. But my question is, given what we know of how Marvel likes to play with the fandom, especially in TV, is it possible that that maybe the timekeepers don't exist, and this is all like a big Wizard of Oz type of fantasy that's being played out, because we haven't seen them. We've seen representations of them. It's this whole big clockwork city that's being that's exercising their will, and Loki he's curious, he's skeptical, but he's not allowed to peek behind the curtain. He might be granted an audience with the timekeepers at some point, but I think they would just as soon snuff him out than let him know that there's nothing really there.
I mean, that's a good thought. Another theory could be, like, what if these are all variants? What if the TV is made up of variants, and maybe only, I don't know, Gugu's character's an actual non-variant. It's interesting.
Like NPCs or something, or just kind of like placeholder. Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting concept too, because Mobius, it was reiterated that the timekeepers created him, like he popped into existence in this world, but they don't really talk about at least not that I've heard, did he have a childhood? Did he grow up in the TVA, or did he just kind of appear, sort of like what we know of, or the angels in the Bible? They were just these. You don't hear about like Angel Junior. They're just like the archangels, just kind of there in heaven serving the will and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting that the timekeepers obviously had their hands full, and maybe they created these. Some of them are agents, some of them are hunters, whatever. Some of them work behind desks and push carts, whatever. But how long has this been going on? And at what point? It is interesting to me that, like, okay, why are all them humanoids? Do they have to, or do they just look human to the ones the variants that they encounter?
Well, especially because from what we've seen of the Time Lords or the Timekeepers, they are humanoid in that they've got like heads and 2 arms and legs, but they look, as Loki keeps calling them, like the reptile people or whatever. They look like some kind of an alien, right? Space lizards. So and I'll peel back the onion or telescope back out a layer further. Not to say this is connected to WandaVision, but kind of in that same way that TV sitcom reality was a projection of her mind that S.H.I.E.L.D. was keeping an eye on. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't it be weird if this was somehow all a S.H.I.E.L.D. construction meant to trap Loki to figure out how to extract the Tesseract from him, because they figured out he got away. We've got to do something about it so that he doesn't go throughout time and space and accumulate this power.
That would mean that S.H.I.E.L.D. has learned a thing or two, and I don't know if they really have. Or
maybe it's not S.H.I.E.L.D. Maybe it's somebody else. Maybe it's maybe it's the real version of the Timekeepers that have created this fake reality to keep them in a box like this. We talked about how they went to Pompeii. Did they go to Pompeii, or are they just in the Matrix somehow?
Yeah, like with the holodeck from Star Trek, right? They just appear at these different places, but it doesn't really exist. So remind me, Loki had this theory in this episode, and he was trying to prove it in Pompeii. Can you remind me what that was?
It's a very cool theory that the Loki variant that they're hunting has been, quote unquote, hiding out in apocalypses. So the idea being, apparently because of the TVA has been tracking all versions of reality and timelines throughout history to make sure that there's the one sacred timeline. But I guess there have been disastrous events along our timeline and into the future where there are these apocalyptic events like Pompeii, where there's the rules are, it has to be a naturally occurring event, it has to be quick, and there can be no survivors.
Right.
So you've got Pompeii, which is the famous volcanic eruption that wiped out Pompeii. So the idea is the Loki variant is going to these points just before the cataclysmic event happened and hanging out. He's got the ability to jump in and out of time. So these cataclysms are his restore points, sort of, because he knows that he can go there and work and live in secret, because that timeline is ultimately going to be destroyed, thus avoiding the attention of the TVA, because nothing happens after that, whereas that people are concerned. Something like that.
Right. Yeah. And so we go to Pompeii, and Loki just kind of embraces the moment because he knows that it's about to be totally wiped out. And it doesn't matter if he reveals himself to the fellow, Italians or whatever. And Mobius is, kind of taken aback, like, no, don't do that, and so it is interesting to think that, like, so Loki has arrived at this theory by thinking like himself, by thinking about how, this other Loki would hide out somewhere along the timeline.
I would have to go back and watch it again and see, and maybe even watch Thor Ragnarok again, but he got the inspiration by reading his case files, because there's an earlier scene where he's given kind of
access.
well, he tries to get access. Mobius sets him down in this, records office and says, just like hang out here. I'm going to go have lunch. Hold on a second.
We got Don.
Yep, he's coming in.
Here he comes, 25 years later.
Popping into the portal.
Hey, okay.
Hey, welcome.
What's the matter? Are you okay?
Time door, please.
A time warp?
No, I 30. Yeah, it's just not keeping up. So totally my fault on that one. So
No, it's fine.
no, all right, yeah.
We were just we were kind of delving into. We're in spoilers, so don't worry about that. But we were talking
I see the
about.
banner.
Yeah, we were just getting into the section where Loki. We were discussing the theory about the cataclysmic events, hiding out in apocalypses.
Okay.
So I was just getting to the bit where he goes into the records room, and it was great because the keeper of the records looked like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but had the demeanor of the lady from Monsters Inc., who was like, "Wazowski."
Where's your paperwork? Was asking.
Yeah. And so he's cleverly trying to get all the secrets of the TVA, and she's like, "That's classified." And well, what can I know about? And she basically hands him his file, and he sits down at this table and he's going through it. And he has sort of a similar moment to what happened in the first episode, because he finds the paper about the destruction of Asgard, which now again, the Thor thing is kind of a blank for me. Was he dead by that point when Asgard fell?
No. Well,
he was there for that. No, he wasn't.
He was there.
He was on the ship.
Thanos
He was there for all of that. Yeah.
He was on the ship at the end.
But
okay, I forgot
this
about
2012 one has no clue. So yeah.
Yeah, that's why he's
that's
watching
right.
this,
Okay.
and he's aghast. Yeah.
I keep getting those 2 points mixed up. Like, where was he, and then when was he? But so he sees about the destruction of Asgard, and he has this moment like, oh my God, this happened, and something about reading that headline on the report gave him the idea of, if he were to hide out somewhere, he would hide out at the end of a civilization. So he goes and sells this theory to Mobius. They settle on Pompeii. They go there for a test drive, and then they figure out that there is another cataclysmic event happening in 2050 in Alabama. It's a page right out of Idiocracy, because it's like this giant mega shopping, like a Costco city that they go into with the TVA.
It's a riff off Roxxon, which was a huge corporation that competed with Stark Industries in the comics, and it's showed up here and there in the MCU, but here it's called, I think it's Roxcart, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they go into this store, and of course the hooded mysterious figure is stalking them and body jumping using that green kind of Loki magic, body jumping. It's cool. I knew they went so far to such great lengths to hide the identity of the person in the hood that I'm like, it's not Tom Hiddleston. It might be Loki, but it's not Tom Hiddleston. And when we finally see the reveal, it's a blonde lady with the little kind of gold horns. So it's like, well, is that a Loki? What's going on here? I love that.
Yeah, and I admit, as I know we're Earth's Mightiest Critics and we're supposed to be the comic fans in here. I'm damn lost. I have no clue who it is, where this is going. Like I know it's only 2 episodes and it's early, but I'm more lost here than I am with WandaVision.
Wow.
More lost here than I am with this is throwing me for some loops, so I will accept and listen to all theories.
Well, before I get to my question for David, because you probably have the answer to this, even if the answer is we don't know yet. My question for you, Don, is you're lost right now. Is it a good kind of lost, where you're like interested in seeing where it goes, or you're like, this is new math and I just can't do it?
No. I can handle the math. I'm in, because the anchor of Owen Wilson is still helpful for the TVA.
Sure.
We're getting Guga Mbatha Raw really kind of showing a few of her also anchorness. Yeah. And then the volatility of these little encounters and situations is still really interesting. Like interesting in the way of like, these are some creative traps and kills, and like, I don't want to say it's a horror movie by any means, but they're having some fun here, like shrouding all of this in great mystery. And even with a cape, a hood coming off, and I'm like, WTF? Who's that? I don't know, but it looks cool, and I'm in. So I'm hanging in there. I'm lost, but I'm in there.
Okay.
If you Google female, it says female, then it says female Loki right underneath it. So people are wondering. And if you're curious, underneath that, it's female cardinal, female reproductive system.
Well, I can understand those
cardinal.
being in the top 4.
Yeah. There's all sorts of theories. Everything you need to know about Loki, female Loki, this, that. So in the comics, as far as I don't know, I think it was probably within the past 15, 20 years. Ragnarok occurred. I don't know for the how manyth time, but after that Ragnarok occurred, that recent one in the comics, Loki was reincarnated as a female. So I'm not sure if they're going off of that. Maybe they're combining that with maybe she is blonde, and usually as far as a famous blonde Asgardian, if she is Asgardian, that would be the Enchantress. And so it could be her playing around. And it like I theorized last episode, I think that there's just a variety of Lokis running around and kind of messing around with the time stream. But there is something about what she's doing here. We learned kind of in the third act of this episode is, she was collecting all these little time bomb things, these resetting the time stream, and she collected about 4 or 5 of them, I think.
Oh, it's way more than that. Looked like more than 5, yeah.
Yeah, because there's the pan out from the security camera or something where you see all the aisles of the grocery store, and there's just like these little blips going off.
Right.
So she was jumping all throughout time and space to attract the attention of the TVA. She would overpower them and then take the canisters that they carry with them, because they all carry these charges to reset the timeline.
Right.
And then she would go back to this reset point, set them up on these grocery store shelves to detonate at the same time when they were all slipping back into time and space. So the curious, the question is, what's her, I have to use this term, end game, and what's she getting at with all those devices, and what was the one line that she had at the end of this episode? She only had one line. I forget it. Oh, jeez, I can't remember her saying anything. Yeah, she did. She did say something like, "Don't worry about me," or something like that. I don't know. I'll have to watch it again. But it's going to be. So, who was? I know the camera was focused on her, but who was her audience then? Was Loki actually? Yeah, she was unveiling herself in front of Loki, right? Yeah. Because the only other people there were like the passed out bodies of the people that she had jumped into, like,
and etc.
And Mobius wasn't around or anything like that.
No, he didn't come up to the run up for the time door at the end. Yeah.
I did like, even though this isn't the Hiddleston Loki, this is a character who carries himself very much in that Loki vein. The Randy character, who was I think he was like an employee of this store or whatever. When he turns, and he's just a guy in like a dorky retail outfit, but when he turns, his body language is as if he's wearing a cape that is kind of flowing. He has this big kind of sweep of the shoulders, and I was like, I could almost see the ghost of Loki like superimposed over his body. It was a very cool piece of acting.
It is interesting. I wonder, like, if the direction is that, yes, you're being possessed, for lack of a better word, by Loki, you need to act like Tom Hiddleston somehow,
a little extra flamboyance to places. I like it.
Yeah.
Because the people who each person who gets taken over they get to have a fun character shift of acting to be more flamboyant, like the big redneck guy, of course, our B-15 person. So it's a fun little moment for each of these small performers.
And I want to ask you guys what you think about Loki's decision at the very end of the episode, because first of all, we'll call her she Loki or the woman in the cloak.
Shaloki. Okay.
Shaloki.
Shaloki. Sounds like a Native American mascot that's going to get banned by the Congress in 2 weeks.
Played by Sophia DiMartino.
I don't know Sophia DiMartino. I'm going to Google that one here. Okay.
Yeah.
Keep your hands where I can see them, Don. No.
Hey Siri, who is Sophia DiMartino? Hands free. Yeah.
But I think
if my screen starts to shake, I'm having too good of a time.
Wow. And just like that, it's over.
Yeah.
No, but
yeah, got my mic on, right?
Yeah. So she leaves the portal open for like a good minute while Loki is standing there kind of deciding, because you've got Mobius and the two agents racing up the corridor saying, Loki, no, don't, giving him enough time to think, I'm just going to go see what's over here. Because he doesn't know what he's jumping into or when. Does he figure that he's got a better chance of maybe controlling that situation than going back and being the lapdog of the TVA? Or maybe he's worried that because he kind of screwed things up somehow that they're going to wipe him out. What was your thought on that?
Well, this is somebody who, when we're talking about the female Loki, this is somebody who knows her way around. And Loki always wants to be surrounded by, somebody who's more powerful, somebody who's, has more knowledge, so he can, that could rub off on him. So he could somehow find an upper hand or a weaselly way out by, sticking around with somebody powerful. So it's not surprising that, he would, kind of latch on to her. And I'm wondering if she was expecting that. So, no.
How about you, Don?
I think Shaloki definitely knew she had him in the bag in terms of like not so much turning him, because I don't think we can really make that determination, but giving chase. I think she knew he's going to follow. If I go, he'll follow. I think Shaloki's got him wrapped around her finger. Yeah.
Do we think has it been Agatha all along?
Here, now we're talking.
Oh, Lord.
I need the little cookie person that Tara Strong voices to turn into Agatha, and then I'm good to go. Yeah.
The Miss Minutes.
Miss Minutes, that's right.
Yeah.
What was that? Was that Tara Strong?
Yeah.
It's Tara Strong, yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, that was fun. The little animated clock. I like jumping into the computer so that he won't smash her. That was fun. Yeah, it's just there was a lot. It seems like not a lot happened in this episode, but there was a lot kind of revealed in this episode. And I can deal with the series that's like this, a little bit of action and jumping around here and there, but just kind of exploring ideas.
Yeah, for the second episode in a row, you get a really lengthy Owen and Tom conversation of just not so much the make you tick thing, but even the silly lunchroom discussion and all that, where a lot of that is coming out, where this is a talker of a show. And I know our villain is making fun of himself for being a talker, but it's playing into that. And I'm very okay with it. Like and I don't feel like it's all like exposition dump. Like this isn't a Christopher Nolan movie where like, hey, I'm the smart guy and I'm a really clever person. Let me show you all about how this works. Like none of that's happening, which is really good. It's all, I know they use the term with the silliness of the salad, but all these conversations of metaphors and chase tales are fascinating to me, and it's been fun, especially with an organization that seems so big and so mighty that we're at the tip of the iceberg of knowing what the heck they're about. We get this feeling that they're enormous, huge in power, and I don't know about powerful, but just into everything. So yeah, I'll take as much as that as possible, because it's fun to play those Easter eggs out. I don't know if I've watched a show. I mean, I'm not a big TV guy, but this reminds me a lot of like some of that stuff like of Lost, where everything is spoken in asides and again in metaphors more than no, you got to push that button every 208 seconds or we all die, that kind of thing. So yeah,
this it's interesting because this show is almost creating a subjective experience to put us in Loki's shoes, because
that's a good way of putting it.
He's so powerless,
or heels.
Oh yes, his heels. Yes, his lifts. No, Hiddleston's
Yeah.
pretty tall.
He's pretty
But
tall.
it in terms of he doesn't have his powers, so he can't just zip out of this place and say, "Forget you guys." He's forced to stay there. He's forced to interact with these people and learn about this world and talk to them because they're trying to get information out of him. So it's like we have to hang out with him and kind of wonder where this is all going along with him and along with the TVA, because for people who are keeping the sacred timeline, they're in as much in the dark as Loki is, because the three people or three beings who do know what's happening, we haven't seen them yet. And Don, before you got on, I was theorizing with David that this might be a Wizard of Oz situation where
I agree.
None of this is real.
I agree. I like that theory. I think these three figures that are almost pillars, so to speak, in rooms and in structures and in buildings are an act to something else. I'm with you on that.
But here's a question. If they're not, and if they really are the keepers of the sacred timeline, and maybe they've explained this away in the show, because there's a lot of kind of these theoretical conversations, like they had a whole big exposition dump about the time bombs, the literal time bombs. But with these branching timelines, these are supposed to be these big cosmic disasters that they all want to avoid and set right. But isn't that ultimately, since it already actually happened, was this foreseen to make it seem like an accident that has to be stopped so that the rest of the story can play out? We already mentioned that as I mentioned, they're untangling the epilogue from its infinite branches. So maybe that's part of it. Like maybe the part of the illusion of time and space and free will is that everything that is supposed to be a big cosmic accident is very much a big cosmic on purpose.
So who's the wizard? Who's Frank Morgan in this? Yeah, I have a headache too. Yeah,
could be Richard E. Grant.
That I would be very okay with that, because there's no way it's Ravana, right?
I feel like that'd be too obvious. But I feel like
dangling what they're dangling.
Okay, so I did look up her last line. Yeah.
Oh, you froze, David.
Yeah. It's okay.
Okay, there you are.
Everybody.
Last line you said, right?
So the last line in this episode, I looked it up, was "This isn't about you," and that's what she says to our Loki. So she obviously has an agenda. She has a plan, and I don't know. To me, if it's not about him, then why does she say it to him? She still wants to.
Loki?
Yeah. But she still wants to. I feel like that would be a way to invite him. If you're telling a narcissist that it's not about you, then that person's going to want to be very a person's going to want to be very interested in, well, why isn't it about me, and what is it if it's not about me?
Yeah. I'm saying she's got him. He's done for. In a way,
I think she's got him because she knows him. It's weird because wasn't there a scene there where I think in the TVA where they were showing all these different Lokis, and one was like dressed like a soccer player, one was like a mongoloid or a barbarian or something. So are those are Lokis that they've come across, right?
I guess, and I don't know how that works. Are these so these would be variants that were in realities or timelines that they had to stop, I guess, because they keep talking about how many different Lokis there have been. That gets into the question of different realities and dimensions. Does the sacred timeline cover alternate realities and alternate dimensions?
Now we're getting to a DC Arrowverse level stuff where we have, where you have Tyler Hoechlin, Brandon Routh, and Tom Welling all being Superman,
Right. And
we're there.
CW did a good job with that.
They did.
These are all branches, and branches were discussed in Endgame with when Hulk and the Ancient One were talking. But it makes me wonder, okay, if there's all these different Lokis, then are there a bunch of different like Hulks, or a bunch of different Thors, or are there a bunch of
different Owen Wilson and TVAs?
Yeah.
I don't know.
There'd almost have to be. Right? Because that's kind of the whole theory of like the infinite, every decision leads to a different reality. You multiply that by millions of decisions across billions of people across billions of centuries. It's infinite possibility.
but the rumors are starting to swirl in the same drain because we've been sold all the fan chatter and film Twitter stuff of what's coming in Doctor Strange, the second Doctor Strange movie. We've been sold that a little bit with Evan Peters messing with us in, even though that was a bit of a red herring in WandaVision, all the zillion casting rumors and Alfred Molina running his mouth about the new Spider-Man movie. Like, are we all going there? Because if we're going there, that's a lot.
I'm kind of getting that queasy feeling, Don, that we sort of talked about last week. I hope this is not leading to one Marvel mega convergence movie. I'm fine. I'm fine with these things dealing with their own little self-contained. We'll have a multiverse in Doctor Strange. We'll have a multiverse in Spider-Man. We'll have a multiverse event, in this TV series. But I don't need Avengers 5 or whatever to be everything comes out and look, it's X-Men and Wolverine and Fantastic Four.
God, classic. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You have these super successful things that you built with the blueprint and everything. Why screw it up for nostalgia points and for screwing around like this? It's on. Let this, like I said last week, let the CW f that up more than Marvel.
Well, again, it's already been teased at least online that the new kind of Thanos character will be Kang. And we saw his little, I think it's Chronopolis, his little city where he's from in the quantum realm in, I think, Ant-Man 2. And
really?
I think the new Ant-Man 3 is called Quantumania or something like that.
Quantumania, yeah.
Yeah. So, again, Gugu's character in the comics is Kang's love interest. So maybe so I think in this episode, Owen Wilson's Mobius makes a reference to kind of like a mysterious timekeeper that is authorizing these things. And maybe that's Kang. Who knows? I don't know.
Okay.
Well, if Ravenna or whatever her name is, if in the comics she is Kang's love interest, maybe that's. I hate to say this because even that seems too obvious. Because I feel like the people who are writing these shows are like, okay, we're gonna plant these theory Easter eggs that people who are casual fans, people who are comics readers, and people who are diehard comics readers, we gotta mess with all of their heads. So I feel like it's too obvious even to say, Ravenna is. Yes, Kang's lover, and they're all in on it, and there are no timekeepers. It's all a big trick to manipulate Loki, and this rogue Loki, Loki is somehow the one who's figured it all out and is going through time to mess with Kang or whatever. I feel like that would be a cool story, but it's also not the one we're going to get. It's going to be something even cooler.
Do the Eternals plug into this as these omniscient, immortal beings? Have they run into these things over the years? And
it's funny because in the trailer the trailer for the Eternals says they've never interfered until now. And it's like then you've seen all the memes of like Ragnarok was happening and the Earth was being invaded and you didn't want to interfere. But I don't know, maybe I doubt it, but it does beg to differ. It's like or I don't know, it makes you wonder like, okay, these timekeepers, are they like as powerful as like Watchers or Celestials or
Well, it depends. If we want to go with the Men in Black analogy of the galaxies inside the marbles that are being rolled around by the the space slugs, you have to answer the question: where do they fit in? Because are the Eternals are they outside the realm with the TVA, or are they still within the TVA's purview? If they're these kind of celestial things, they might be on the same realm or plane of existence as Asgard, and that they're cosmic beings, but they're not metacosmic or whatever. It's
spinning in.
Mine too.
In a good way.
Yeah. Now here's a question about Kang from the comics. I mean, I know what he looks like, but I don't really know much about him. David, where would he slot in here? Would he be on the level of the TVA, or would he be more like someone that's just messing around in the quote-unquote regular Marvel universe?
Well, he's a controller of time, and he's called Kang the Conqueror. So he's all about conquering civilizations throughout time, but also just about manipulating, like time. He manages time and he controls time. Like dialing switches. Switching dials. And so, like, it goes back to ancient Egypt when he was kind of the iteration of Rama Tut. So he's been around forever. He's kind of like Apocalypse, where he's been around forever, and he's kind of all powerful because of his control of time. And he's mainly been an Avengers villain, which would make it perfect for him to show up in the Avengers 5.
Well, I mean, he's slotted for in Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania with Jonathan Majors and others. So we're gonna get him soon. They're filming, I think, even now, right?
Yeah, because I saw like Evangeline Lilly's Instagram, and she's getting into Wasp, like she #Wasp workout,
Yeah.
So they're starting to film.
Well, because I guess my question then is, in the story that we're seeing now, I know Kang's been around forever in the comics and in the comics lore. Could this be an origin story? Or perhaps it turns out that the TVA, the timekeepers, were created or appointed or rose in order to protect the sacred timeline from people who meddle in time like Kang? Or is Kang an emerging superpower who has just figured out that he can control time, and now he's messing with the TVA because he's discovered what they are, and much like Loki, he would love nothing more than to take them over because they're sort of in his way rather than the other way around?
Good questions. I think that if anything, they could probably hint at Kang in this series and then just let Ant-Man 3 be the development.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, because after this, we're getting Hawkeye and what else this year? Something else. She-Hulk. She-Hulk
gonna make it by the end of the year?
I think so.
I have to think those two are very earthbound and grounded. Like, we're not gonna go where this is going.
Hawkeye's done filming. I think She-Hulk is starting. I don't think we're gonna get a whole lot of. If anything, those two series will maybe lead into Avengers 5. Okay. Because I could see She-Hulk being on a roster for an Avengers lineup for Avengers 5,
and like pre-COVID, this was supposed to be the third show, right where it's supposed to be. But you guys always told me in the last two shows we did where Falcon and Winter Soldier was supposed to be first, and WandaVision was supposed to be second. Right. So imagine following WandaVision with this, where it just gets weirder, and that would be a blast.
It would make sense because if they started out with Falcon and Winter Soldier, it'd be kind of like a little bit. Right. Falcon Winter Soldier would be a little bit more of the same.
Right.
And then but also, something shocking like WandaVision, and then this.
Yeah. But the Falcon Winter Soldier would also lend itself to the end of Endgame, where that's Captain's the Captain's ending, and now you get the reverberations of that in the world that it's in, and then you can kind of go weird with grief by the time you hit to Wanda. So
sure.
Yeah.
I'd be remiss in not showing our comment that came in just a little bit ago from our very own Captain America, Steve Rogers. Said save good night. I don't know what that means, but appreciate it, Captain. Very well done.
Yeah.
Thanks
we're in the watch later folder. I appreciate that. Yeah.
So I love these kind of big questions because we're only into episode 2, and I haven't, Falcon and Winter Soldier was a fine show, but I miss these weekly kind of WandaVision-esque theory discussions because you just wrap your and by the time the show is over, it's going to turn out no, it was none of what you guys were thinking. But I'm not even mad at that, because we're chasing our tails with WandaVision, but the stimulating conversations and the ideas that came out during those 8 weeks or whatever, I'll cherish those for a long time. And and we're on our way here with Loki.
Yeah, we're just getting warmed up, it feels like.
And I'm wondering if at the end of this series, if it's just really going to be about Loki, any Loki that has ever been.
Okay.
So not just the one that we know, but whatever, a Loki, because again, we showed all those little images of the different Lokis, and also we get the supposed female Loki at the end of this episode. So is this show really going to be about? Yes, we're familiar with Tom Hiddleston, but there's all these other Lokis, and it's through time, through different, again, it's gender fluidity, so it could be anything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the thing is, you look at the titles of the show with the different, the different letters, with the different fonts kind of ticking, almost like a clock going through all these different iterations. I think you're onto something there. My question is, do we know what Tom Hiddleston's contractual situation is with Disney Marvel?
That's a good question. Yeah, I'll take a peek at that. Keep talking.
Well, I also wonder if does he in? Because I know Thor 4, which I love the name. I know it's Love and Thunder, but
yeah,
I'm just gonna go out Thor 4. I wonder if he's involved in it.
Well, we might find out by the end of this show, because my question is, if this is sort of let's just say it's a one and done kind of a regular television show, it might have repercussions in the greater MCU, but let's say they figure out this time thing, they wrap it all up, the bad guy or bad girl, whatever, gets punished or killed, and it really is a self-contained story. What if this is Loki's swan song, and he decides that to save reality, he has to, blink himself out, sort of like the T2 at the end of T2, where in order to set things right, Arnold has to lower himself into the pit, and it's a big tearful goodbye. I think I'm really warming up to Tom Hiddleston on this show, so I kind of hate to see him go, but I also think it'd be the perfect way to kind of send it out, this ultimate act of selflessness from someone who's only looking out for himself.
I want him to say, "I now know why you cry."
Now we're talking.
Well,
no, who's our big baddie? Oh, it's Christian Bale in Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
So, okay.
The guy,
because I don't see Hiddleston listed as like anywhere deep in the cast of possibly showing up. Like, you have your Guardians of the Galaxy that pop in there, but nothing with Tom.
I would be hard pressed to believe that they wouldn't even like a cameo or end credit scene or something. But who knows? Like Ian just said, who knows how this show's gonna end up? It could be a swan song or what, or maybe this was part of the deal that Hiddleston would go out just showing so much, so many dimensions and range for this character, and then that would just be it.
I do hope, though, if that is the case, that he just stays dead, because we've done this at least 2 other times before.
I know. Yeah. Come on
Loki. Now. Yeah. Or it becomes a running joke where they just kill Kenny, every every movie. You killed Loki, you bastards.
So can Shaloki? I don't want to say it has to be female against female. Can Shaloki be a contender and play with Natalie Portman's iteration of a possible Thor?
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. It's interesting because that what Thor 4 is doing is combining like 2 storylines. I think both written by Jason Aaron, where Jane Foster takes on the mantle of Thor, or becomes this female Thor, and then also this God Butcher storyline where this God Butcher, played by Christian Bale, is going throughout time and dealing with or trying to basically destroy all sorts of gods. It's going to be really interesting. I think I've seen footage on the set of, like, of course, once again, Bale is like losing weight, and obviously, he's running and everything and keeping in shape, but he's just like slimming down and shaved his head. And
is he supposed to be like a wiry character? Because you have someone like God Butcher, I imagine like a Schwarzenegger type or something.
No, I think he's just kind of this, kind of like almost like a very pale, bony, type of antagonist. Yeah.
They called the right guy then.
Yeah. It's Thor versus the Machinist.
Right.
There we go.
All right.
There we go.
I think. I mean, closing thoughts, guys, on episode 2. I'm fine with that, and I think we can wrap it up.
I would say we haven't mentioned it yet, but once again, with this episode, it just the art production here is just slam bang, so cool, so cool.
It's the coolest you'll ever see Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Okay, the best
Well,
it's ever gonna
I don't know
look.
about that. I guess I'm mainly talking about the TVA.
Yeah. No, that mid-century
Yeah,
thing they're doing there is gorgeous. Yeah.
yeah. So hats off to that. I'm looking forward to more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
High level
this-
thoughts here. I like I said, interested and confused at the same time. I'm actually kind of pleased that this one is 6 instead of 8 or 9, because I think if you kept this act going too long of all the clandestine weirdness, it would get too heavy. And 6 is plenty. That's 5 hours and change of. If you can't tell that story in that amount of time, you should have thought about a different method and way.
It's crazy to think the next episode will be halfway there.
I know.
Yeah. But if it keeps with this same kind of a format, then next episode we might not be hanging out with Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston, but with Tom Hiddleston, Thor, Loki and She-Loki. Mostly an episode of them hanging out and monologuing and trying to unpack this crazy universe. Again, this is like the slow cinema of the Marvel universe, and I love it. Yeah, I'll be
get
very
my curtains. Come here, Jessica. Where are you? Sorry, earlier joke, David.
I brought that Blu-ray upstairs. I would have grabbed it and used it against you like the powerful crucifix that it is.
It would work. I shrivel away and grow hair. It'd be amazing. Yeah.
The tree of life is what we're talking about. But anyway, I think, this is a good place to leave it until next Wednesday. Thank you very much, guys. As always, Don Shanahan of 25 Years Later, Every Movie Has a Lesson, and Cinephile Hissy Fit Podcast, and David Fowley of Keeping It Real. I'm going to be seeing you again very soon.
Yes.
And it's you guys we're just hanging out all the time now. I love it. But and I am always Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. This is the Kicking the Seat YouTube channel. So thank you very much for joining us for Loki's Midweek Mischief. We'll be back here 9 p.m. Central next Wednesday.
9
p.m.
Well, he was playing around with one of those time switcher things and just got totally distracted. I understand it. Yeah. Nice, David. Come back, and if you join us like in between sometime in the next 6-7 days, let us know what you thought of Loki episode 2 down in the comments. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you agree with us? Do you have any crazy theories that we can talk about next week? Because we'll do it. We're open to all comers. And until then, thank you very much and good night. I'm ending the